Does it ever feel like keeping up with Google and making sure that your content is ranking on page 1 feels a bit like a full-time job? If I'm not the only one feeling this way, then guess what? We have a treat for you. Today, we'll be sharing with you a framework that can help you create a content strategy that keeps you sane and Google happy. And this is all thanks to the incredible Margaux Marshall, who is going to spill all the beans about a framework that works for her and for her clients. And guess what? It can also work for you. Enjoy this incredible workshop, who is also part of our summer school series. If you want to find out more about our summer school and all the other ways that you can get incredible training that teaches you how to market to hearts, then go and check out the link in the description. But without further ado, may today's class begin.
Here we go. So today we'll be speaking about how to climb Google with content. So it's really how to get your articles, on that prime first page of Google and the process through it. So next slide. About me, a little bit of background. So I am an SEO expert, and I've founded an SEO agency called MGX Digital. I actually started in the industry more than 10 years ago by learning how to code, because I wanted to create a travel website that was a mix between TripAdvisor, Lonely Planet, and Wikipedia. No small feat, but that's really where I started the SEO journey, finding out how do I get my website found by my target audience, which gave me the skills in SEO. And then I decided to just specialize in SEO, and I'm now growing a fully remote agency, which is also 4-day week, because we all value that work-life balance. In terms of my little hobbies that you might find me at the weekend doing, I enjoy rowing, reading, and walking my dog. So enough about me. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of SEO and content. So for your content to perform well, there is a process that we follow, that it's not just creating an idea or putting up a news about your work to your blog that's going to make your whole website rank well. We do a data-driven process, so looking at the keyword research and then planning which content are you going to do when, and then actually writing the content. There's a big process there as well. And then looking at regular publishing, and then doing periodic reviews of old content that you've created. So in this session, I'm just going to go through each of those steps. Some steps are longer than others, so bear with me. And then please put some questions in the chat, and then I can try and answer as we go along, to try and keep it really interactive. And then, as Fab said, the bigger questions we can, we've got time at the end to discuss them. So we're really not looking at the technical SEO today. It's very much content, but data-driven, to select that content. All right, so let's get into it. Step 1, the keyword research. So there's plenty of tools that you can use for this. And you're really looking to get data on how many people are searching for that specific keyword or that specific topic. So I've put a list there of different tools that you can use. Some are free. So Google Keyword Planner is free. So it's the one for Google Ads. You don't need to pay for it to access like the research tool. You've got SEMrush, Ahref, Keyword Finder, Keyword Everywhere, Ubersuggest, and lots more. You can probably get a bit lost picking the right one that you want, but I just suggest trying a few different ones, seeing which one is best suited to sort of your UX, your user experience. In this demo workshop, I'll be using Ahref as a sort of demo in a way, to show you our process. So first of all, we look, as part of the keyword research, is really getting the inspiration. So you really want to put yourself into your customer's boots. So I think Ben here is from an accountancy agency. So Ben would think, okay, who's our target audience? They're business owners, and who are also our competitors. So that's the first step. So once you know who your competitors are, you take their URL and you pop it into Ahref. So once you've logged into Ahref, there's also a free trial if you want to give that a go for 2 weeks. And you pop the competitor website in, and then you go to organic keywords on the left here. And then you get to see which keywords your competitor is actually getting the most of traffic to their website. In which way? So in the workshop example, I'm actually using a business coaching business. So I popped in their competitor, going to the organic keywords, and then I can see what that competitor is ranking for. So I'll make notes of that for later use. Second area of inspiration, just search on Google. So for example, my business coach, some problems that his clients are having is staff retention. So that would be a topic. So then just putting in staff retention into Google gives you suggested of longer tail keywords that you might also want to put down, drop down and use for later. Then, for example, again, looking at staff retention, I clicked on staff retention strategies. So then you can see which articles are ranking first. What you can do then is pull that Forbes article, use that URL, put that into Ahrefs and see what keywords that article is ranking for, because it might rank for staff retention strategies, but it might also rank for different variants that might give you even more suggested keywords that you want to target. So we're gathering all these little bits of information. You can also, for inspiration, use an AI tool such as ChatGPT, saying my target audience are business owners that are struggling, for example. What's their problems? And then that's the type of content you want to write to solve their problem. All right, so you've gathered all these little nuggets of information from different areas, and then you want to create your, call it a base list or your sort of source list. So include your services. So in this case, we've got business coach, business consultant, or business advisor. It's all the different ways that people might search for your services. So for an accounting business, you might have tax advice, VAT return, tax returns, and quarterly VATs, or that's your services. And then in terms of your topic, so we're really looking at high level. So we're looking at the primary keyword here. So it tends to be a short tail where you get the most volume. And then we'll put that through our tools and generate a long list of longer tail keywords for our plan. So topics for a business coach, they're more what problems are your clients having. So looking at business growth, business plan, business strategy, marketing strategy, staff retention. So you're looking at all those different areas. So now you've got your base list, you've got a pretty good idea what sort of clusters of content you want to go into. That's when you start generating your long list of keywords. For you try and get a good 100 or 200 so that you've got a really good idea for the next sort of 6 months what you want to plan in terms of content. So back to Ahref, here you put your seed keyword, your primary keywords, or your topic. So here we've got business coach. You run it, and the screen that you'll get from Ahref, I'm not sure if this is really small or not, and you can see what's on the presentation. So Ahref gives you actually quite a lot of details, and it can be a bit overwhelming, and you probably don't need to look at all of it. You get your keyword difficulty. I would say don't get too hung up on that one. That's sort of a secondary decision sometimes. But look at the volume. So just for business coach, we can see that the volume is 2,100. And that's expected because it's our primary sort of high volume keyword. But what we want really is all the sort of longer tail, more specific topics that we could potentially rank for. So you click on the view view all term match, and then you'll get a nice long list like this. So what you want to do now is you don't want to just export all of the longer tail keywords for business coach, because not all of them are relevant. You really want to keep what's relevant for your business. So you start building a specific list. So you would select business coach. I mean, that would be amazing if we can get onto the first page of Google with that keyword. But there's also some nicer things that we can look at. So for example, small business coach, online business coach. These are exact services that matches my client. And there's some that you can ignore. So business coach near me, I'm actually going to target that through local SEO and optimizing Google business profiles. So I don't really need that on my list of article or landing page creation. So, be very targeted in terms of the list that you select. And then questions are also really helpful. So in this instance, I looked at the topic business growth. And once you go to your long list, you can actually click on questions, and then Ahrefs will spit out the different questions. So we've got what is business growth? So that an article discussing that, talking about what it is, the benefits, the drawdowns, or what to watch out for example, would be really good for my client. But then further down, you've also got how to measure business growth. That could be another great article about KPIs, metrics, how to measure success. So there would be 2 different articles, and that one has a search volume of 20 per month. That's what we're looking at here, as opposed to what is business growth is 150. So picking all of those, so if you've got a wide variation of questions, long tail keywords, primary keywords that have got different search volumes, then we'll be able to select the right ones depending on where your website's at now. All right, so you should have that long list, but before you move on, you need to watch out for user intent. So business strategy was one of our topics, and then there were some keywords that came up for that, which was sustainable business strategy. So, just at a first look, I was like, well, yeah, sustainable business strategy could mean that how to create a sustainable business that's going to make it through different recessions and so on. But actually, when you put it in through Google, it's actually a very different answer. So here it says, a sustainable business strategy is a business strategy that incorporates economic, environmental, and local factors into the policies. So it's more about sustainability and as a more in a sort of green environment, as opposed to a sustainable business that can see through a recession. So in this instance, that wouldn't be a keyword that we would target. So you would take that off your list. So it's always great to just double check it into Google and what does Google answer, because it will really check what the intent is when people do search for this. All right, so now you've got your long list of very different keywords, and you might think you've got a target audience that's really looking for business growth at the moment, and you want to talk about, as we said, how to measure business growth. So you want to select your keywords from your keyword list. How to select those keywords is probably the main question. So you need to see how old is your website and how authoritative is your website. If you've been working at a company where you've got quite a lot of brand awareness already, your domain authority, so how you've got a lot of backlinks to your website already, you might be in a position to target higher volume keywords, the ones that say the keyword difficulty is a bit higher, because higher volume, people have been targeting those for a longer time, so there's more competition. If, on the other hand, you've got a website that you've never worked on SEO, you've never had digital PR, you've never really had any marketing strategy in place, your website's probably been there for a couple of years, but you think Google might think you're alive, but it might not, then you would start with the lower, probably less like between 10 to 50 search volume. But what I do sometimes is great to mix it up. So pick some keywords that are 20 search volume and pick some keywords that are 70, pick some that are 150. And then over the next 6 months, you'll see yourself which content is being picked up quicker by Google. But it tends to be that you can rank higher and quicker for the lower volume keywords that are less competitive. So again, when going through and selecting, Google it, because if you see websites like Forbes or really authoritative websites that have got, or HubSpot, for example, that really answer the question straight away, that will be hard to compete with. But if you find that it's smaller website, other competitors, then you might find yourself a little niche that you can create content that's going to get onto that first page if your website's not, if you've not done any SEO before. But if you're, as I mentioned, if you're more mature in the marketing phase, then you can look at 150, like you can start maybe at 150 keywords. And again, it'll also depend on if you're B2B or B2C. So we've got some B2B clients. We don't tend to look at anything under 150 search volume because it's just not worth our time. But then the B2B clients, if it's 10 searches a month, we can be really happy with it because it's extremely targeted. Okay, so it can also, another thing to mind when you're planning your content plan, it can also take 3 to 6 months or more for that article to make it to the first page. So if you're in the business with seasonality, where you know that you're going to have a campaign around Black Friday or Christmas, you need to plan that at least more than 6 months in advance and have that article published, let's say 6 months in advance, so that Google has time to discover it, crawl it, see how good it is, and slowly put it up in the rankings. So it's there during the season, during peak season. Because if you publish a week before Christmas and you wanted your article to rank #1 at Christmas time, that's not going to give Google enough time to figure out the quality of your content or even discover the content. So plan way, way, way in advance for this. This is a slow-moving ship. Okay, so now we go on to writing the content. You've got your long list of keywords. You know that which article you want to write this month. So let's look at actually writing the article. So there are tools to use for this, AI tools that help you know what information you should be putting in the article. And you need to ensure that your article has high relevance. What I mean by that is that, for example, 15 years ago, if you wanted to rank for how to measure business growth, you could just repeat that keyword 50 times on the page and in the title, and you could probably get onto the first page of Google. But with all the algorithm updates, Google is a lot smarter now, and it understands the semantics of the page more than keyword repetition. So you've got tools such as ClearScope, Surfer SEO, and many more. There's plenty that are coming out now that do this, where they analyze the top 50 ranking articles and pick out what terms keep popping up on these articles. So for example, how to measure business growth. We need to talk about metrics, business growth, growth rate, revenue growth, benchmark. It's all these semantics that will need to appear in your article so that you can have a high relevancy, let's say A++ relevancy, so that Google sees that you are covering all the topics around measuring business growth, so that you can have a likelihood of ranking on the first page of Google. You tend to have to include all these words, then the length of the article tends to be longer. So unless you're in a very, very niche area, then you can have 500 words. But we tend to see articles of about 1,200 words to include all the semantic terms in a natural manner. You don't want to just say metrics followed by, you just don't want to list all the semantic terms. You want to talk human. Really, you are creating helpful content to serve a purpose for people reading it. So this is more about dropping in the terms wherever you can to increase the relevancy, but the number one person that you're serving is a human. Let's not forget that. Then writing your content, how do you structure your content? So your main heading, which tends to be in a H1 tag, you should include your target term, because now the H1 tag ends up being the title that Google shows on the search engine results page. It should be catchy and entice the reader, and also be reflective on what's on the rest of the page. Otherwise, the reader is just going to arrive on the rest of the page and say, actually, the rest of the content doesn't match the heading. So that's really important. It's a really strong signal and signpost about what to expect after. Then it's great to have an introduction, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, and you state the main idea and describe what the body of the content will contain. Then writing the content, the body, that's where you'll get most of the heavy lifting. So that's where you want to cover the content at depth. You answer, really keeping the structure of answering what, why, and how. You can also answer related questions. So if you put the targeted keyword into how to measure business growth in the people also ask area in Google, you can see how do you measure a company's growth? We'll be answering that anyway, but what are the indicators, or how do I track, or what is a KPI? So these are actually questions that you can have within the body of your article, and then use 1 or 2 paragraphs to answer those questions. Then another great way to really boost your article to be better than anyone else is to add real life examples and case studies. So, going back to my business coach client, then I would look through his case studies and see, clients that he's increased the revenue by 80% year on year. Then we would talk. Yes, I'm a big fan of case studies. I love them too. So really say, okay, we worked on this electrician business, and over 3 years we increased their revenue by 80%, and this is how it was done. It shows real life, and AI tools aren't going to create content like that. So and as Fab said, she loves case studies. I love case as a human reading it. We love to see how it's done and how it's implemented. It really takes it to life, as opposed to just reading an encyclopedia of information, for example. All right, so then the conclusion, summarize the article, of course, but that's a really great place to get a call to action in the conclusion, as opposed to writing the article in the sort of salesy manner, because here we really want to provide informational content. Having a sort of closing paragraph to say, hey, look, I've just shown you all of our expertise. Look how well we know this. If you need any help with this, we're here to help. Call us on or email us at. I think that's a really sweet spot to, at that point, promote yourself, as opposed to trying to pepper it in throughout the article, because I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but when you're reading a blog article that's informational and they're trying to sell you something, like, it becomes a bit frustrating. You're just here to digest information. And if the information is great, you're going to trust them more. And if at the end there's a call to action, then you might be more likely to get in contact. So then, before you publish, you really need to ask yourself, is this content the best? Is this better than anyone else's content that's on the first page? You want to ensure that you're covering everything and more than the articles that are already ranking. And then I also get a question quite a lot is, should you use AI generated content to publish your articles? Unfortunately, with AI, it's all the content that it creates becomes quite mediocre. It's not going to give you real life case studies and quotes and things like that. So using AI for generating ideas is great, but actually finding a really great copywriter that knows how to include all of your keywords as well, that's going to get your tone of voice at the same time, can be a more efficient way and a more sure way of getting results than popping it into ChatGPT and then publishing that directly on your website. I would advise against that. You're not going to see the results that you can get otherwise. Okay, so then step 4, so you've got your article. You should really plan to publish 2 optimized blog posts per month at least. That's excluding your sort of company news or product launches and things like that. What I mean by an optimized blog post is this process that we've just gone through. So you should be looking at least 2 per month and stay regular. So, you know, if it's always the second week of the second and the fourth week of the month, try to keep to that, as opposed to just publishing 10 in 1 week and then you do nothing for 4 months. That's not going to help your SEO so much. It's really that consistency to keep Google coming back, crawling to see your website, because then it knows to expect that great content on a weekly basis, for example. Finally, step 5, I find that this is the winning recipe, because it does take time for Google to discover your content and for your content to then gather a few backlinks as people start sharing it. So after a year, that URL's been around for much longer. So it's known to Google, it kind of becomes more mature. Doing a few updates to that page, maybe adding a new question, or if something's changed in the market, you know, adding a new trend to it, can be really, really helpful, and you avoid having content decay. Because if you're creating an article that performs really well, your competitors are going to see that, and they're going to start creating an article that's similar to that, and they're going to, you know, get that spot above you. So you'll want to avoid, you know, you have an article that's performing super well for 9 months, and then you start see the trend going down. But by updating it, you'll keep that spot at the top. And whilst you're doing that, update your publish date so that it keeps looking, you know, it's not an article that's been published 3 years ago. It looks like it's a newer article. I think we're coming up to the end now. So we've really gone through in detail how to create content that can perform really well. But remember, content is only part of the puzzle in terms of SEO. There's, you know, technical SEO is the foundations that your website is built on. If you're creating great articles, but they're still not performing, there might be something wrong with your website itself. There's off-page SEO, so doing digital PR, getting those backlinks, and then on-page SEO, making sure that your headings are the right structure and so on. Okay, so that was the presentation. I hope you'll find a few nuggets. So Ben, you've got a question. So would the keyword rule work on social media too, to appear on Google? Google has been pushing a few like LinkedIn articles to the top. So sometimes we do find LinkedIn articles perform well. But what do you mean? Well, the keyword rule, do you mean in terms of search volume and competitiveness? Or I think you can use that as an idea to think about what topics to write for social media to start generating ideas, but I wouldn't use it as specific as a rule as we would do for an SEO article for social media. I think social media tends to look a little bit more at trends and what's catchy, and it's might be a bit more clickbaity as opposed to like here we're really looking to use the Google algorithm. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question very well, but we can discuss that a bit more. So I'm just going to finish up here. So MGX Digital, we do provide some more SEO, a fuller sort of SEO services. So we look at content strategy and copywriting, which is what we've just gone through, and then any technical fixes, auditing, competitor analysis, keyword research, reporting and monitoring, local SEO, international SEO. So we're very specifically niche in terms of SEO services.
I'm back, everybody. Look at this excitable hand. Hello. I have a question, and I think it's a question that I was talking to actually one of our students in the All Access Pass, and something similar came up, so I'm just going to bring it up myself. But anybody else, chat, Q&A, you know where to go. I know where to find you. So my question is about actually, not just writing the blog posts as for blogs or for a written article, but actually either incorporating, for example, YouTube videos and building them into it, or even just using your website and your blog, because realistically speaking, unless you want to go for a custom type, which is a bit more advanced, also to talk about your podcast episodes. Should you treat this similarly when it comes to the framework that you taught us? Or is there anything that should be different, or should we even not do this altogether?
It's I kind of flip it a little bit on its head sometimes, especially with videos. So I do have a client who does a ton of video content, and YouTube algorithm works very different to a Google algorithm. So the way that they create videos, I wouldn't write a whole article about the YouTube video, but actually the video can be really supporting to some of the articles that I've written. So, and it can help the engagement of the article that's written. So if we have, so if we go back to the example of our business coach, and we've got an article on how to measure business growth, he might have a YouTube video that's like, 5 internal business KPIs. That would be a really good video to embed into the article that we've created to keep your users engaged on that page and offer them more information. And then I've got another client who started a podcast during COVID. And what I've asked him to do there is to have the transcript, and that we publish the transcript on the website. And we do get traffic to then the podcast traffic pages as well.
I love that. So it's kind of like not just duplicating or creating just like a piece of content out of it, is also getting the transcript that you wouldn't find otherwise anywhere else, which I think is kind of clever as well. Okay, that's interesting. I think that's the thing. There are different formats as well, because I think sometimes we might feel or have to, even twice a month can feel a lot, whether you're not a writer, whether you don't have the capacity, whether you don't have the bandwidth. And I think that's also what's really interesting when it comes to this, is kind of thinking about, okay, how can I make the most of what I have? And that's why I wanted to ask that question as well. I'm going to actually ask you another question. Anybody else, if you have questions in your live, please let us know. Obviously, before we then can close this session. My other question was about, what are some of the roadblocks? And what I mean by that is, like, I think most of us start very enthusiastic and excited, especially when following a framework. It really helps. But then at some point, something, and it can be time, that's one that comes to mind, can come our way and stop us from, actually kind of continuing our process. So is there any roadblock that you find that your clients face a lot? And or is there something that we can do to help ourselves, making sure that we can try and meet this goal that we can set of showing up and creating content at least twice a month to keep everything happy and healthy?
Yeah, I think the roadblock here is actually writing the content because it's so creative, and your specialty, you might be a business coach, you might be an architect, you might be an interior designer. Your specialty might not be copywriting. So you might have all the best will in the world, but actually going, you do, I think people do get that sort of blank page, sort of scary, like, where did I start? And you do have all these tools that can help you create an outline and so on, but it'll take a couple of hours out of your day. So I do find the roadblock sometimes it's just the content creation, and that's probably why a few people will just go to ChatGPT and get it created, and they find it easy, but that's not going to perform. So I think getting the support of a copywriter, it's a really wise investment, and then it's their deliverable that you give them the brief, they write it, and they know that every 2 weeks you're going to have to review that, and that can be a really sound investment so that you can keep to that, because your expertise might fall in other places, and actually you spending 4 hours a week writing an article is not the best use of your time, because you might be an architect, for example, and that's where you make your money. So yeah.
Can I ask one final question on my side? I'm not seeing anybody else in the chat, at least like as live. Could you give us one or two quick examples of case studies from your clients? And I'm not talking about maybe the SEO auditing itself, because obviously that's part of what you do, just everything, just about this, right? About you helping them, or you even just like nudging them to do the work when it comes to their content, and what type of results or changes or shifted they're seeing. Because I think we don't talk about that enough. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, but it's what you do. And if you're goddamn good at it, I love that you teach us how to do it. But I think it's a good reminder that it can work for so many people. So if you have some examples, I think that will really consolidate all the goodness that you can.
Sure. So we did one of my sort of long-term clients, a B2B agency, and we started publishing 2 blog posts a month from the get-go, really focusing on their clients' problems and different sectors as well. So we're approaching it as a sort of sector by sector basis. And within a year of consistently publishing, we were having some articles that were ranking on the first page. These informational articles that are we're giving out information for free, that's where we're getting the leads through from the clients. So it's not just brand awareness, it's actually generating business. So if you select a specific sector saying, okay, I'm a B2B business and I'm going to target architects, I'm going to create content that solves their problem, you get onto the first page and then you actually get phone calls from them. So as a case study, it did take some time. It was after 12 months of publishing twice a month. Their website had no maturity. Well, they hadn't done any SEO before, as I was mentioning before. They hadn't had any backlinks. They had a very low domain authority, but we kept chipping away at it. They had their copywriter in-house. So when we told them, okay, we need this article and we expect to publish this at that date, then in-house, they created their own processes so that their copywriters would create that content for that date. And we were getting great results and great leads, which is fantastic. Then we've got another example is a B2C client, where again, we create 2 blog posts per month, but we create it on our side. We ask the client if they've got any suggestions to include in the article, and then we publish them. And for them, the website is a lot more mature. So sometimes we'll see the article within a week. It'll go onto the first page of Google, and we'll see hundreds of people coming to the website. And then it's how do we then utilize those users, which goes into loads of other marketing avenues. You know, do we get them to sign up to newsletters and so on? So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. And it's a great reminder that great things take time, everybody. And you're like, Fab, stop saying that, god damn it.
It does take time.
Sure. I see a little Q&A question as well, but I wanted to just actually ask you a little follow-up note super quickly, if that's okay. You talked about the first case study. Actually, you could even tell that it wasn't just brand awareness, it was also leads. Just for that example, maybe, like we don't have to go because everything is different, but could you give us a bit of an idea of how can we, is there something that is relatively straightforward that we can do to track that? Is it having conversation with them? And as we do, we ask them how they found us. Would that be one of the most effortless way to do that? Or is there anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I mean, we've got Google Analytics, but because of GDPR now, we find that Google Analytics data is very thin to see like how many people have clicked on the email or the telephone. But throughout our monthly calls with this specific client, I'll say, oh, how's the business going? How are your leads? And then she asks the leads that she gets, she says, how did you find out about us? And then they'll say, oh, I found this article, you know, this specific article on Google, and I called you. So here it's more of a discussion that we have with the client.
I'm gonna get the question from the lovely Angela and from the All Access Pass. Hi, Ange. So she apologizes because she ran a bit late. It's okay. She also asked a follow-up question. She's related to this, so I'm gonna merge them. Hi, Ange again. Lovely to see you. Should you date your blog posts? She said, I have obviously mixed ideas about it, but also she said, and does it matter if you do?
I would say it's a good thing to date your blogs, not to be dated in the URL. You don't want that in the URL because then it kind of signposts that it can be old content, and you don't want to be changing your URL every year when you're renewing your content. But having the publish date, I think as myself, a user who digests content on the website, if I can see that the publish date is within the last 6 months or the last year, then I know that the content is relevant. If I don't see the date, then you think, well, was this published before COVID, for example? So many things have changed since COVID. Is this still relevant? So having the date there is actually a really clear signpost that the content that you have written is up to date and still valuable for your potential readers.
I love that. I think it goes back to the user intent, which we talked a lot, even when we talk about SEO ourselves. It's just that user intent piece and understanding how we consume, as you say, content. And that my mini follow-up to that then would be, just to kind of close us off, would you then, we talked about updating content as well beforehand. So I was wondering, would you then say that you would update the day of the publishing by writing at the top as well? This was my preference. And writing at the top, updated on this date, or would you just update the date and that's it? How would you go about that from transparency or clarity's sake?
It depends on the industry, and it depends on the capability of your website. So on most sort of websites, or like WordPress site, I actually update the publish date so that it updates it on the blog post itself to, let's say you've published your article 2 years ago, you've just updated it now, you can change your publish date to now. So that's the process that we use. And that's why it's important not to have it in the URL, because then the URL wouldn't change. So anyway, so you've changed your publish date. In the medical field or medical websites, you can see that the article was first published on this date, and then when was it updated, and then when it's due another review. So it's a lot more extensive in terms of this reviewing process, and it's what Google also expects in that field. So yeah, depends on your industry, but in terms of generic blog posts, you can just update that publish date, so that it's a bit more of a signal than just modified, for example. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, if we're live, you can shower lovely Margaux with lots of claps. We know how to do reactions by now, some of us. Hopefully we got the gist. So, look at that, hearts and claps.
Oh my God.
Whatever you want to give her. Obviously you're live, so party poppers are the best. And nobody gives the guy with glasses. He is my fave. Again, that's what you miss out when you're watching the replay. You miss out on seeing the guy with glasses appearing. I mean, Ben got a gif out. Ben is like, I'm gonna
thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. And team, thank you so much once again. And I hope you enjoyed this workshop. And I think this was a great reminder as well of between what Margaux told us today, that, as I always like to say, practice does make progress. So never stop learning. Before I go, don't forget to be kind to yourself and others. And until next time, we'll see you again. Class is dismissed. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hello there. It's Fab here, and I just wanted to say hi. By the power of time traveling, which I totally have, I want to say I hope you enjoyed this session. This is one of our workshops from summer school. And if you missed out on one of your tickets, then what are you waiting for? Just go and check out in the description if you can still access all of our summer school sessions, old and new. Yes, there are still some tickets left for summer school right now at time of recording. By the time you're watching this, you better check. And why would you? Well, because it's 9 weeks of free amazing events. And for the whole duration of summer school, you get access to all of the replays for free. After that, we're going to move all of our lovely replays to our all access pass and student community, which you can also check in the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Go and check out all of our other sessions from summer schools and our amazing speakers. In the meantime, don't forget to be kind to yourself and others, and practice makes progress. Until next time, class is dismissed.